Hello, and welcome to the demonstration video for the Microsoft Excel 2013 Unit 2 practice exam. Begin by logging into Canvas and navigating to the Modules area. Once in the Modules area, scroll down to the applicable week for the practice exam. In this case, it's week 8. Then, make sure that you not only download and print out the Microsoft Excel 2013 practice exam directions, but that you also download and open the Microsoft Excel 2013 practice exam dataset. I'll begin by clicking and opening the dataset itself. And by clicking on that link, depending on the browser that you're using, it will then open it for you in Microsoft Excel. Remember, as you begin to navigate and operate with Microsoft Excel, you make sure that you enable the editing on the workbook so that you're able to actually make edits. Let's begin by clicking on the Reality Shows tab, and this will begin our directions for worksheet number 1. Number 1, merge and center the contents of cell A1 over the range A1 to E1. The font should be Arial Blue Bold, Superscript, and 18 point. Begin by selecting the range A1 to E1. Then what you're going to do is come up under the Home tab into the Alignment group and select Merge and Center. Since you have to make a lot of edits in terms of font in different styles, I would recommend then coming under the Home tab to the Font group and selecting the dialog box launcher. If you remember from class, if you have a lot of edits to make and do it in a very short amount of time, it's easier to come into the dialog box because all of the options are available for you under the Font tab. With that said, let's go ahead and change the font to Arial. Then what we'll do is change the font style to bold, the font size to 18. We'll also change the color to blue. Remember, if you're looking for a standard color, you'll come down into the Standard Colors palette, and right here you'll see the screen tip that says blue. And then additionally, you'll have to make it a superscript right here in the effects. When you're done, click OK to close the dialog box. Remember, every single time that you make an edit, I recommend that you hit save. Number 2, center and rotate the range A2 to E2 to positive 60 degrees. Begin by selecting the range A2 to E2. Then come under the Home tab into the Alignment group, and right here, what you'll do is you'll format your cell alignment, and in the Format Cells dialog box under the Alignment tab, you will see the orientation right here, and you can change the degrees to 60. Then click OK to close the dialog box. Number 3 states, sort the shows ascending by the number of seasons. Begin by selecting the range C3 to C8. We do this because you only want to sort rows 3 through 8. Once you've selected that range, come under the Home tab, over to the Editing group, select Sort and Filter, and then the first option, Sort Smallest to Largest. The Sort Warning dialog box will appear, and remember to always check Expand the Selection. Then click Sort. Number 4, increase the indent once for the range A3 to A8. Begin by selecting the range A3 to A8. Then come under the Home tab into the Alignment group and come right here to increase indent. Click the button. Number 5 states, place a black all borders around the range B3 to E8. Select the range B3 to E8. Come under the Home tab into the Font group. Come to the drop-down for Borders and select All Borders. Number 6, format the budget numbers in column E to be accounting style. Begin by selecting the range E3 through E8. Then come under the Home tab, into the Numbers group, pull down on the arrow for formatting, and select Accounting. Number 7, calculate the average number of seasons, episodes, and budgets for the show. Seasons and episode averages must be whole numbers, and the budget must be accounting style. Begin by placing your cursor and making cell C9 the active cell. Under the Home tab, come to the Editing group, to the AutoSum function. Pull down on the arrow and select Average. Make sure that your selectors have the correct range, C3 to C8, then hit Enter. Coming back into C9 as your active cell, you can use your fill handle to carry over 2 cells to find the average for both the episodes and the budget. But we're not done yet. The directions state that C9 and D9, in other words the seasons and the episodes, must be whole numbers. Whole numbers mean that you could simply just have a number and no decimal places. With those 2 cells selected, what you'll want to do is come under the Home tab into the Numbers group, and you'll want to take out or decrease your decimal places to make those whole numbers. Additionally, the directions state that E9 must be in accounting style. Under the Home tab, come to the Number group, pull down on the arrow, and change this to accounting style. Number 8, color this sheet tab green. Come down to the Reality Shows Sheet tab, right-click with your mouse, select Tab Color, and from the Standard Colors palette, choose Green. Number 9, add a custom footer to this worksheet. In the center section, insert your name on the first line, like the example given, and the date on the second line. You must use the date function within the footer screen. From the ribbon, come to the Page Layout tab, into the Page Setup group, and select the dialog box launcher. From the Page Setup dialog box, select Header and Footer, and then select Custom Footer. In the center section, type your name as the example is given, and hit Enter to get to the next line. Then select the calendar, and you will notice that an ampersand with the word date in brackets will appear. Click OK to close the footer dialog box, and then click OK to close the Page Setup dialog box. Number 10, auto-fit the entire worksheet. Select the columns A through E, and then double-click on the line between E and F. Let's now move to Worksheet 2, the balance sheet. By clicking on the Budget tab, we're going to begin with number 1. Calculate the total amount of money collected for each month from the job work performed. Place your answer in row 8. You must use a built-in Excel function to perform the calculation. Begin by making cell B8 your active cell. You'll then come under the Home tab, into the Editing group, go to the AutoSum function, pull down on the arrow, and select Sum. Be sure that your function is selecting the correct range, which it is, and then hit Enter. Remember, you can then make B8 your active cell, take your fill handle in the lower right-hand corner, and drag over 2 columns to fill in the budget numbers for both February and March. Number 2, the amount of money budgeted each month to repay credit card debt is found as the product of total paycheck monies collected and the credit card payment percentage. Find the credit card payment expenditure for each month and display your answers in row 12. You must use an absolute reference in the equation. Let's begin by making cell B12 the active cell. This question asks us to take the total amount of money that you collect each month from your paychecks, which in this case, for January, would be in cell B8, which is $1,706.26. And it asks us to take 7% of that amount here, which is the credit card payment percentage, and find how much that we have to pay each month in credit card payment. Let's begin by making B12 the active cell, and then getting our cursor blinking in the formula bar. Begin all equations with an equal sign. So we will then click in cell B8, which is our total for January, hit our asterisk key to signify a multiplication, and then click in cell B19. But remember, because you must carry this formula over into the C column and the D column, this B19 must be an absolute reference, so we'll hit F4. When we hit Enter, we'll notice that we must pay $119.44 for the month of January, which is 7% of our total paychecks collected. If we go back into B12, making it our active cell, and then carrying our fill handles over into the C and D column, you will notice that it carries over accordingly. Number 3, the broke college student aspires to travel abroad in Rome during the summer of 2014. As a New Year's commitment, the broke college student promised to contribute $100 each month to the Rome Travel Fund, assuming that she's made at least $1,600 during the month in paycheck monies. If that threshold is not met, no monies will be contributed for the month. In row 13, determine if a contribution to the Rome Travel Fund will be made for the month. You must use an if statement given the available assumptions to perform the calculations in row 13. Let's begin by making B13 our active cell. This question is asking us to take a look at row 8, which is the amount of total paycheck monies collected during the course of the month. If this amount is greater than the Rome travel cutoff, which is found here in the assumptions, then $100 will be contributed, or in other words, be found in row 13 for that month. However, if this amount here in row 8 is less than what we see down here, nothing will be contributed. So in order to do this, we must build an if statement. By making B13 our active cell, then come into the formula bar. Begin all equations with an equal sign. An if statement starts with the word if in lowercase, followed by an open parentheses. The logical test states that right here, B8 must be greater than the travel fund cutoff, which is found in B20. Remember, if you are going to carry this equation over into subsequent months, you must use an absolute reference by clicking F4 on your keyboard to lock that equation into this cell right here. So, if cell B8 is greater than B20, we'll hit a comma for then. You'll notice the value of true lights up in the formula. So, if that is the case, then $100, or cell B21, will be contributed. Again, remember, since we're using an assumption here at the bottom and we expect to carry it over into subsequent months, you must hit F4 on your keyboard to lock in an absolute reference. However, if our value is false, by hitting a comma, then $0 will be paid for this Rome Travel Fund contribution. You must remember also to close your parentheses. Hit equal, and you will notice $100 is contributed because the total amount in paychecks collected, or $1,706.23, is greater than $1,600. If we come back into B13, making it our active cell, we can then use the fill handle to carry over for the subsequent months. Number 4, calculate the total expenditures for each month. Place your answer in row 14. We'll make B14 our active cell. Come back under the Home tab, into the Editing group, to the AutoSum function, and click on Sum. Be sure that the right range is selected, and hit Enter. Then carry over using your fill handle for February and March. Number 5, after all is said and done, the broke college student wants to know how much money is left over. In row 16, calculate the money left over by determining the difference between total paychecks and total expenditures. Begin by making B16 your active cell. Then come to the formula bar, get your cursor blinking, hit your equal sign. You must take B8, which is the total paycheck amount, and subtract out B14, which are the total expenditures for the month. After bills are paid, you have $1,311.79 left over in January. Use your fill handle to carry over the formulas into columns C and D. Number 6 states, if the broke college student increases her credit card debt contribution to 8%, by how much does her credit card payment in row 12 increase in January? Place the amount in cell G14 and return the percentage to 7%. Well, here's what we know. I'm going to come to cell F4 just to kind of help us out here. So at 7%, if I can write that correctly, 7%, we know that the total credit card payment is $119.44. But how much is it at 8%? Well, what we can do is come right here to cell B19 and change it to 8%. We notice all of our formulas recalculate, and the credit card payment now at 8% is $136.50. So if we come and we subtract $136.50, take out $119.44, we notice that the increase is $17.06. $17.06. So, in cell G14, just as the directions asked, we know that the increase is $17.06. The question also asks us to make sure we return this to 7% because we are doing a what-if question. Number 7, insert a sparkline in cell E8, depicting the trend in total paycheck monies for January to March 2013. Ensure that the sparkline displays both the high and low points of the line. Begin by making E8 your active cell. Then come under the Insert tab into the Sparklines group. Select Line, and then let's look at the Create Sparklines dialog box. You must select your data range, which in this case is B8 through D8, and then click OK. You'll notice that the Sparkline appears, but we're not finished yet. Come under the Sparkline Tools Design tab, over into the Show. We must, per the directions, turn on the high point and the low point, and then we are complete. Number 8, add a custom header to this section. In the left section, insert your name on the first line. From the Page Layout tab, we will come to the Page Setup group and click on the dialog box. Then click on the Header Footer and click Custom Header. In the left section, simply type your name and click OK to close out the header dialog box. Then click OK to close out the Page Setup box. Finally, number 9, auto-fit the entire worksheet. Highlight columns A through G, and then double-click on the lines between G and H. Let us now click on the Data tab and begin Worksheet 3's directions. Number 1 states, freeze the top row, row number 1 of this worksheet. First, come under the View tab, into the Windows group. Come to Freeze Panes, and then select the second option, Freeze Top Row. Number 2, sort the worksheet descending by first name, which is column B, and then ascending by city, which is column D. You must use the custom sort function. Begin by highlighting column B, coming under the Home tab, and then coming over into the Editing group, Sort and Filter function, and select Custom Sort. The sort warning will appear. Remember to always expand the selection and click Sort. First, make sure that you sort by column B, which is the first name, and the values according to the direction must be descending or Z to A. Then, add a level. From here, make sure that you then sort by city, which is column D, and the values must be ascending A to Z. Then click OK. Number 3, apply the formatting of cell A1 to the range A1 to F1. Make A1 your active cell, come under the Home tab in the Clipboard group to Format Painter. Click the Format Painter, and then copy on the range B1 to F1 the formatting. Number 4, conditionally format the range D2 to D13 to have a yellow fill color for all instances in which a duplicate value exists. Begin by highlighting the range D2 to D13. Come under the Home tab into the Styles group and select Conditional Formatting. Pull down on the arrow, select Highlight Cell Rules, and then click Duplicate Values. When the Duplicate Values dialog box appears, you must change it to yellow fill color. So pull down on the arrow and select Custom Format. Then come under the fill and click Yellow. Click OK to close the dialog box, and then click OK again. Number 5, filter column E so that only addresses in Indiana and Florida display. Highlight column E, come under the Home tab to the Editing group. Pull down on Sort and Filter and select Filter. When the filter turns on, click on the drop-down arrow, then deselect all of the options, and come back in and click FL for Florida and IN for Indiana. Then click OK. Number 6, auto-fit the entire worksheet. Highlight columns A through F, and double-click on the line between F and G, and click Save. Then click on the 80s tab to begin Worksheet 4. Number 4, Worksheet 4 for number 1 states, concatenate the first name, last name, and number of days on the chart. The result will be chart name or column C as formatted in the given directions. Let's begin by making C3 the active cell. Then come under the Formulas tab into the function library. Pull down on the option for text and select concatenate. The function arguments dialog box will now appear. In text 1, select B3, which is the first name. You'll notice in the directions that a space exists between the first name and the last name. So, put in text 2, quotation, space, quotation. In text 3, this is where we find the last name, which is cell A3. In text 4, the directions state that there must be a hyphen with spaces on both sides separating the last name and the chart days. So, in text 4, it will be quotation mark, space, hyphen, space, quotation mark. Finally, in text 5, we must include the chart days, which is cell F3. Click OK to close the function arguments. Since this is a formula, you can use your fill handle to fill in for rows 3 through 7. Number 2 states, construct a Vlookup table given all of the elements in the paragraph. And we're going to begin in cell D9. So make D9 your active cell. Given the directions, you will notice that you should have days on the left column and the word status on the right column. In cell D10, what we will do is take a look at the first range, which is 0 through 199. Remember, VLOOKUPs, you must construct the table using the lowest value in the range, and it must be a singular value. So for 0 to 199, in the left column, we will say 0, and the status of none. For the next range, 200 to 499, we will use the lowest value, or 200, and our status. Continuing on in the table, we will then select the lowest value for each of the ranges given. Once our VLOOKUP table is constructed, we will then come to cell H3 and make that the active cell. From the Formulas tab, we will come to the Lookup and Reference function, pull down on the arrow, and select VLOOKUP. Our lookup value are the number of days on the chart, which is cell F3. Our table array, all of the values in the table except for the headers, as an absolute reference. Our column index number is 2 because the status comes from the right column, which in that case, this is 1, that is 2. And then we will click OK. If we fill in the formulas, you will notice the lookup values come from the table here. They're based off the chart days, and then you receive the status. Number 3, auto-fit the entire worksheet. Highlight columns A through H, and double-click on the line between H and I. Moving on to the Pad tab. Number 1 states, calculate the amount to finance for the loan. Well, we know, given the story problem here, that the listing price is $550,000. Also, we know that the down payment is $50,000. We know our annual percentage rate is 4.05%, and our loan is for 30 years. So what we first can do is come to cell B2. If we want to bring the cost of the condo up from the bottom, instead of simply typing it in, we can hit our equal sign in B2, click B12, and the value automatically comes up. For some reason, if we ever needed to change this, we would only have to change it here and not in 2 places by using the formula that we just did. The down payment, we will hit our equal sign and bring up cell B13. To calculate the amount we must finance, in B4, we will hit our equal sign, take the cost of the condo, and subtract out our down payment, or B2 minus B3. We know now that we must finance $500,000 for this loan. To calculate the rate, number 2, what we need to do, since we're calculating a monthly mortgage payment, is take the annual percentage rate in B14 and divide it by 12 to get our monthly percentage. So, in cell B6, we will hit our equal sign, take B14 and divide it by 12. To get our term, number 3, we will make B7 the active cell, take our term, which is 30 years, and we will multiply it by 12, because again, we're getting our monthly mortgage payment. We now know that we must make 360 monthly payments. To calculate our monthly mortgage payment, we will make B9 our active cell. We will then come under the Formulas tab to Financial, pull down on the arrow, and select PMT, or the payment function. Feed in the correct arguments by following the descriptions given here. The rate is already calculated for us, which is B6. The number of periods is the term of the loan, which is B7. And the present value is a negative B4, or the amount to finance. You can remember it's the amount of money that you owe. You're already $500,000 in debt. By clicking OK, we calculate our monthly mortgage payment to be $2,401.51. Number 5 states you have $2,200 budgeted monthly given your mortgage and your salary. Can you afford it? If you have $2,200 budgeted and your monthly mortgage payment is $2,400, you would be unable to actually pay this loan given your scenario. So the answer is no. No, you cannot afford it. Also, number 6 states auto-fit the entire worksheet before you continue. Finally, click on the Chart tab. You must construct a chart, number 1, insert a 3D clustered column chart depicting the type of media on the x-axis and the number of hours consumed on the y. You'll place the chart in range I5 to P19. Begin by selecting the range A2 to F7. Come under the Insert tab, into the Charts group, pull down on the column charts, and select the 3D clustered column. Make sure that your media is on the x-axis and the number of hours is on the y-axis. You can go ahead and move your chart to make sure it's in the right place. Number 2, place an axis title called Media on the primary horizontal axis. Okay? So what we're going to do is come under the Design tab to the Chart Elements, and we're going to do an axis title on the primary horizontal. A text box appears, and we want to clear that out and type in the word Media. Also, what you're going to want to do is then, number 3, place a vertical title on the primary vertical axis called Age. Come back under the Design tab to the Add Chart element, come to the axis title, and this time select Primary Vertical. When the text box appears, clear it out and type in the word Age. Number 4 states add major and minor grid lines to both axes. Back under the Design tab, come to the Add Chart Elements, then come to Grid Lines, select Primary Major. Then you're also going to want to add all of the other grid lines as well too. They will start to appear as you see on the chart. They're faint, but you can see them. Number 5, show the data labels only for the 65 and plus age group. So we know 65 and plus is the light blue, so click it once and you'll notice all of them highlight. Come under the Design tab again to add chart elements. Come to Data Labels and do a data callout. Finally, number 6 says add an arrow shape to the chart pointing to the highest media consumption for the 65 and plus age bracket. What we will do is come under the Format tab in the Chart Tools, select our Insert Shape arrow, and then we're going to point to this one right here because that's the highest media consumption for that age bracket. And click Save. This concludes the directions and the explanation for the Unit 2 Microsoft Excel 2013 practice exam. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. Have a great week.